You're listening to Trek FM.
Welcome to From There to Here, Trek FM's 50th anniversary rewatch project, where the hosts of the network get together and discuss for you all 729 episodes and movies in the Star Trek franchise, especially our favorites, such as the ones when O'Brien must suffer. And my name is Brandon-Mutala, and joining me today is Will Nguyen.
Hi, Brendan. How you doing?
I am doing a lot better than O'Brien in this episode.
That is true.
Yeah.
This is really one of the epitomes of the O'Brien must suffer episodes.
You know what's fantastic about this block, Will?
Yes.
This is the last time until December that for one solid block, the two hosts will get to talk about only one Star Trek show.
Whoa. I mean, that's what happens when we're in the 90s golden era where Star Trek is overlapping with each other with two series and movies and all that stuff. So it is kind of interesting that this is the first time it's going to happen for a while.
Yeah, because this is right at the end. So Next Generation has just finished. They would have been talking about that the other day. And Voyager hasn't started yet. Star Trek Generations isn't in the theater yet. So it's that time when it's just Deep Space Nine on the air for a couple of months. And but this is the height. Like, this is when I really got into Star Trek. Like, my first live episode of Star Trek I ever watched was Chain of Command Part 1. Was my first
what
one.
A great episode to start off.
Yeah, it was. It was an awesome one. But this was really when it was getting crazy because there was so much there. Like, what a wonderful time for Star Trek, hey?
It really was. And I think these stretch of episodes are the episodes I always point to when people say, oh, DS9 only gets better after the fourth season. And it does. It does get better, but that doesn't mean that what was before wasn't good at all. It's, in fact, right now, these are the really great spate of episodes which are solid in their own right and stand up right next to anything in the later seasons.
Yeah, you got it. Well, today we're going to be talking about the last two episodes from Season 2. We've got Tribunal and the Jem'Hadar. And in Tribunal, O'Brien and Keiko are about to go on a vacation when they get taken hostage, well, not quite hostage, taken prisoner by the Cardassians because they believe that Miles has been ferrying weapons to the Maquis. Tell me, Will, what do you think of this episode?
I mean, what are the odds, right? When he's on his vacation, everything's, he's reluctant to leave the station, and, the entire crew's like, get off the station, go on your vacation, and he finally gets to relax and enjoy and looking forward to spending this time with Keiko, and what do you know? A Cardassian ship is coming in real fast, and things are not going to end well. And it is, like I said at the outset, it's the epitome of an O'Brien must suffer episode. I think Hard Time is probably the only other episode which is really up there in terms of him suffering. But this is also, this is false imprisonment. This is extreme duress. This is trumped up charges of treason with capital punishment, and you don't really, does he know that he's actually doing this? We don't know. He's being set up, but we don't know how it's going to end. It's very much a perfect plot for Cardassian hijinks, Cardassian manipulations. This is right up their alley in terms of manipulation, and it works really well because we get a really, really great look into Cardassian society because of this, how they view justice and the criminal justice system and how they allocate guilt versus innocence. It's a really good take into the culture as a whole, the civilization as a whole.
Only guilt, because the trial will reveal how this guilt was proven by the most efficient criminal investigation system in the quadrant. I love the Cardassians and the way they are written. Like, that is such an amazing line, and it is so revealing of this society and how they view things. It's like, no, we're good, we're perfect, you're guilty, now let's show you why we've proven you're guilty. And the Cardassians are so rich, and they are absolutely 100% my favorite antagonists in all of Star Trek, because they're not just antagonists. They were the bad people. They're basically the Nazis of the Star Trek universe, but they're not just portrayed in a one-dimensional manner. They are us. They are everything that humans are and more, because it's amplified a little bit. Like, they've got all of our feelings, all of our loves, all of our desires for our family and everything, but they've got this weird twisted manipulation on this legal system, and it's just so wonderful to watch it. And this is a pinnacle episode for me, and this is definitely one of my favorite episodes, not just of the season, but probably of the whole of Deep Space Nine.
I absolutely agree with you, Brendan. I actually wrote an article for Trek News not too long ago arguing why the Cardassians are the best race in Star Trek, and what you just said is really in line with that, in terms of they're not 100% antagonists. They're not 100% evil or always in opposition to the Federation. They are incredibly multidimensional and layered and textured. We saw in Destiny, Cardassian scientists, we learned about their affinity for art and culture. In Chain of Command, how rich their society was, how rich their civilization was. And then we also see the incredibly nationalistic, incredibly militaristic society here, in which the state and the entity of Cardassia is first and foremost important over everything else. And it's incredibly ironic that the best defense attorney in the state is someone that would be considered a terrible defense attorney with our own human sense of justice, right? It's completely inverted, right? But it's done so well, and it's done not in it's not contrived. They actually believe it. You actually believe that they're actually doing the right thing by doing this, by actually just showing to the people how guilty people are, and the outcome is preordained. And there's nothing wrong with that, because the conservator actually believes that. The Archon believes all this, and it's done really well. And in 45 minutes there's a lot of world building that happens in this episode.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, just the fact that Odo's there, right, and how he's able to come into this. Have they assigned a Nestor yet? Like, this weird word Nestor, and it's a non-position. But because Odo knows the justice system, he's able to come in there. And it plays on the fact that he was working for the Cardassians on Terok Nor. And they're like, no, only relevant Cardassian members of the justice system. He's like, yeah, well, they never actually took it away from me, so I can do this. It's so cool. I mean, we get Gullavec again in this episode, and I love him. Like, he's a great character. We saw him in Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager. It's this overlap of this time where we're seeing this important Cardassian person. The way he talks in this trial, his Gullavec's voice is just amazing.
Are you saying he's the Phil Coulson of the Star Trek universe before Phil Coulson was a thing, Brendan?
I don't know who Phil Coulson is.
He was the agent in all the Marvel movies that was leading up to the Avengers, and they crossed over and they formed a TV series. I've always said that Star Trek, in a lot of ways, was the shared universe before shared universes became very popular and very mainstream. Right now, is that in this period there were two series that were going to overlap. There were going to be movies. There were going to be this shared timeline, and Star Trek really pioneered that type of, hey, Gullavec was in Preemptive Strike. Oh, he's also in this episode. He's also going to be in the pilot episode of Voyager, and it's really great to see that continuity.
Mm-hmm. You got it. One other thing I wanted to mention that I thought was really cool and really subtle was when they walk into the Cardassian trial, and those couple of people that are witnessing the trial, like the audience and stuff, they just do that little knocking on the table. Like, it's just this weird little thing. They never explain it or why they do it or whatnot. But again, that type of world building is just so awesome to see. I had a question for you. Do you know why female Cardassians have that blue in their spoon on their head?
I don't know. I assumed it's makeup or a decision to wear cosmetics, or just there was a decision just to make it that distinctive characteristic for females and for women, Cardassian women. I don't know the reason why they did that, but I think that's a really cool bit of continuity going forward, is that those Cardassian women typically have that colored in spoon area, that colored that head ridge area. I think that's really cool. I don't think they ever explained why, but I think it's still neat that they kind of made that distinction.
Yeah, like because we saw that woman in the chase have it, and watching this again, I've always wondered why did Seska, spoilers, not look like a proper Cardassian to me when she was revealed to be a Cardassian? And it's because
you just ruined Voyager for me, Brendan.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Her hair is not
kidding.
black. Her hair is brown, and all Cardassians have black hair. You know, so like I don't know, they got this look that's, I just love it. Oh, it's so good.
The only thing I would say with that, why Seska would look different, is maybe they wanted to play down the heavy Cardassian makeup so she was still somewhat recognizably Bajoran or the Seska that we know, that it wasn't a complete transition over. Maybe there was something with DNA and kind of it was a blend or a hybrid or a mix. I don't know. But you do notice that certain Cardassian women, sometimes the makeup is less heavy. Some of them because they're actually half Bajoran, like Zial. Others, I think they just want to de-emphasize the heavier makeup. I don't know, but that's a good point, Brendan.
Yeah, great stuff. Is there anything else you want to say on Tribunal?
Odo is really great in this type of role where he's an investigator, he's a sleuth. Those are always my favorite types of episodes because it shows you why he's so valued. But even before Starfleet came in, before the new administration on DS9, is that, yes, he's a shapeshifter. He can change in all these wonderful, amazing things. But first and foremost, he's a really good investigator and detective, and he's good at his job. And I think that's what's really good about Odo, is that he can do all these amazing physical things, but even better than that is the fact that he's really good at solving a case.
Yeah, you got it, man. Well, unfortunately, we have to move on to the next episode. But fortunately, the next episode's the Jem'Hadar. So
a terrible episode. Just awful.
So Benjamin Sisko wants to take Jake off to the Gamma Quadrant for a project for school, and Quark and Nog tag along, and they hear rumblings of these awful beings called the Jem'Hadar, and we find out a little bit more about the Dominion in this episode, which has been building up. We've heard a Dominion mentioned a couple of times in season 2, and this is the first time we actually get to see members of the Dominion. So, what do you think?
They destroy the Enterprise in this episode. Oh no!
So
wait on.
I gotta say, watching this, when I was watching this the first time, so this was what, 94? I was 13 when this was on, right? And I never caught that it was. I knew it was the same type of class, but I never caught the parallel that, hey, we're showing you how bad these people are in that this is the same type of ship as the Enterprise. It's a Galaxy-class ship, and that's why they're bad, because we've had 7 years of the Next Generation and stuff. So maybe it's because I came into Next Generation so late that I never caught that until I was older.
Yeah, I don't think I actually necessarily caught it either, that they really wanted to hammer home that point. I thought it was a nice coincidence, like, oh, this is also a Galaxy-class ship. It's rare that we see any Galaxy-class ship aside from the Enterprise D herself.
And the Yamato.
But I think, what was that?
And the Yamato.
And the Yamato, you're right. But I think it proves the point, though, when I learned that information after the fact, it really did make the episode more resonant, more powerful in terms of saying this is a new type of adversary. If Picard and crew were there, they would have likely been destroyed as well. And it definitely puts an exclamation point to the end of season 2. And I do love how the initial premise is, Sisko really wants to spend some quality time with Jake. And then Nog tags along, and then Quark tags along, because Quark wants to get in business and wants to gain Sisko's favor to get him to approve some business transaction. And I just love the fact that what was going to be a wonderful father and son outing ended up being, the equivalent of a double date for two parents, right? Just like, how did this happen? And Quark is I think he's a wonderful foil in this episode, because he lightens the episode, but at the same time also adds an outsider perspective, which is Quark at his best, is when he does all those things. And you see that in this episode where they kind of have to figure things out. They're not sure who this heiress person is. We find out she's actually, well, not in this episode, but we find out that she's part of the Dominion. But even in this episode, there's kind of like there's kind of like that misdirection. We know down the road that she's actually part of the Vorta, but we don't know in this episode that actually the founders are the founders yet. So even that, there's a misdirection. It's because it's a slow reveal that's been happening for a while, like you mentioned, Brendan. But it definitely says this is an enemy that's coming. It's different than anything you've seen before, and they're here to stay.
Well, even in this, like, it's a third of the episode before the Vorta, like, runs in on them, right? Like, it's all this build-up of this fun, laughing at Quark. They're going on this camping trip, and Quark hates bugs, and it's 50 minutes into the 45-minute episode before we even see the Vorta and any action starts. Like, this is a really well-built episode, and it takes its time to tell the story that it wants to tell, and it builds to this climax at the end of this suicide run from this Jem'Hadar ship. You know, and it's a pretty powerful episode, and what a great way to end the season.
Absolutely, and I even love the interaction between Captain Keo and Dax, how they really just don't like each other. And it's, you know, he was on the screen for maybe 5 minutes tops, but, you know, you could tell that there was a character here. They shared some history between him and Dax, and it added some more emotional resonance when the ship did go down, when the ship did get destroyed. When you had that reveal at the end, you know, Era saying you have no idea what's begun here. I think it like you said, Brendan, it worked really well because when you think about it, the action does start fairly late, and that's a good thing. I think you're much more invested in the story when that happens. And I must add one last thing. I love the fact that we see only this one time the fact that the Vorta can do some sort of telekinetic fireball, almost like a Street Fighter Hadouken, almost.
Yeah, we never see it again, but that's okay. We don't really have to. But there's so much great in this episode. I mean, I said it on an earlier episode. I absolutely love watching Jake and Nog together. They are such a great pairing, and that scene when they're trying to manipulate that runabout and trying to get it to work is brilliant. It's hilarious, you know. Oh, there's a ship coming in. Oh, red alert! Fire phasers! Load the torpedoes! Launch it! You know, like the way he reacts it's hilarious. It's awesome. But the two of them, the way they play off each other is a great aspect of Deep Space Nine, and we do get quite a bit of it in the early seasons. And it's unfortunate that it does drop off near the end of the run. But I like watching them a lot. I think it's a lot of fun.
and exactly. And the irony is, spoiler alert, is that Nog becomes quite adept at operating those ship controls later on, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the irony. He's so green now, he won't be so green later on.
Yeah. The last thing I want to mention here is that chilling line that Jem'Hadar says to them when he's talking about that new Bajor colony. He's like, they fought well for a spiritual people. Like, just the way he delivers that line is so chilling because it's like, man, some crazy battle just happened there. So,
and it's very condescending, but it's also very, at the same time, they know everything about their adversary.
Yeah.
They know their strengths, their weaknesses, and you know, it was condescending, but also at the same time, it was said almost out of begrudging respect. So you're kind of like, wow. They really know their enemy, and nothing intimidates them.
I really wish I would have met a Klingon.
Oh, they will. They will.
Excellent. Anything else you want to say about the Jem'Hadar?
No, I think that basically sums it. I mean, I could keep on talking about this episode, but I won't. I think these two episodes are a fantastic end to season 2.
Go watch them. Excellent. Well, where can people find you, Will?
They can find me on Twitter at Boomer9er, and you can find me in the Babel Conference, which is Trek FM's dedicated Facebook listeners group.
And you can find me here on the network with new episodes of Melodic Treks, which is all about the music of Star Trek. And you can find me at Brandon Mutala on Twitter, or every once in a while on the Babel Conference. So join us again tomorrow as we jump into Season 3 of Star Trek Deep Space Nine with The Search Part 1 and The Search Part 2.